sports. It's in the game.
Last season, and there is 3, 4, 5 red lights under the drivers. The green flag is in the black, and it's lights out, and away we go, go, go! And Max Verstappen has gone away brilliantly, as has Carlos Sainz. I think he was alongside Hamilton there. George Russell hangs back at the start, and it's all going to get a bit left and right everywhere. Everyone darting for some space. Hamilton stayed ahead of Sainz. Verstappen leads. No contact in Tamarella, we all got through. Aiden Jackson there is round the outside, and Fernando Alonso in the chicane where he passed Ocon yesterday, and he's passed another Alpine. Hulkenberg down the outside of Kevin Magnussen, and he's made a great move. And George Russell is having a look at Lickens TV. He's already disposed of Valtteri Bottas. There is definitely a possibility for double points for Audi this weekend, because Nico Hulkenberg, well, if he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all to throw the late great Barry Walker, as Charles Leclerc has passed Lewis Hamilton. And I think it's very clear that Mercedes just don't have the pace to the front two at the moment, with Ferrari and Red Bull in teams as far as the teams are concerned. But George Russell certainly has pace. He's up to P14 past Pierre Gasly, and both of them have come in, as is Hamilton. So the top 3 have come in immediately then. Who's going to get out in front here? It's going to be Max. But Charles looks like he might have got a bit closer there. Now, where are these 3 going to come out? It's going to be traffic galore for them. Aiden Jackson's also coming in. Oh my word, Aiden Jackson fastest lap, 121.4. And Lando Norris is getting so much space going into Tamburello. And that DRS was powerful. We've looked up, we've rejoined, and Max and Charles were fighting, and Charles has gone on the outside of the car already. We joined at an opportune time there. Charles took the lead. Vettel passed Latifi, and look at this! Aiden Jackson getting unlapped by both Latifi and Vettel. Shades of Spa 2000. And I think Jackson was so surprised, but he went off. Verstappen, he looks a lot closer there to Charles Leclerc this time around. He's going to try around the outside, and Leclerc is going to block him off of Verstappen. And Leclerc's gone wide, and oh, he's just about kept ahead there. And Hulkenberg is pulling to the side. Oh no! Back at the front, Charles Leclerc has pegged Verstappen by the looks of it, and he is going to cross the line to win the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, when he was pushed all the way home by Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. And Verstappen has done it to Jackson again. That's the fastest thing he has. Verstappen has taken the fastest lap from Jackson on the last lap yet again. And look, George Russell is going to be right there, right at the end. Jackson is just gonna hold it. America expands its Formula One horizons once again as the sport returns back to the East Coast for the first time since 2007 in Indianapolis for the first ever Miami Grand Prix. That's right everyone, F1 has arrived for the first time in Florida, home to a plethora of sports teams from both forms of football to baseball, and now the 77th venue to hold a Formula One Grand Prix. And what a circuit facility it is, with Sector 1 driven around the Hard Rock Stadium, the home of the Miami Dolphins NFL team. Many celebrities have flocked here over the course of the weekend, and even Audi Sport have marked the occasion with a special livery courtesy of one of Aiden Jackson's personal sponsors, Abstract. By the end of the Friday running, however, the porpoising effect was back on the biggest talking point agenda, with Mercedes and Audi the worst affected down the long back straight. But at the end of qualifying, Lewis Hamilton secured his first pole position since the 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, beating Verstappen by 0.010 seconds. Aaron Henwood, Mercedes' pace in Imola was no fluke after all. Certainly not chaos, and I think that's just made this season a little bit more exciting. That's pole 104 for Lewis now, and with Russell fourth, it confirmed that Mercedes are certainly fast over one lap. However, I still think they're lacking in overall race pace compared to the Red Bull and Ferraris. But they are looking forward to receiving their first upgrades of the season in Spain on their car, next time out. So today will be once again about the Constructors' Champions most likely making the best of their slight deficit in race pace. And as you said, Audi are another team struggling with the porpoising, with both cars out in Q2 with Jackson 11th alongside his teammate, and that means a well-earned 10th place for Kevin Magnussen, who's really becoming the unsung hero of the season so far, considering he didn't even have a seat before the start of the year. Championship leader Charles Leclerc is the other real outlier of qualifying, only managing 6th, but of course we all know that Ferrari has the best car of the season, so he should be able to make that up rather easily. It certainly got the makings to be a great debut race here in Miami, Aaron, thank you. So we've got a special treat for the onboard lap of Formula 1's newest track. We're on board Aiden Jackson in the Audi, both of which sporting a special helmet and livery for this weekend. So the 77th venue on the Formula 1 calendar is the Miami Grand Prix. Here we are for a lap on board this newest circuit. Sector 1 is driven around the Hard Rock Stadium, the home of Miami Dolphins in the NFL. As Jackson on board here in the very snazzy looking car for this weekend. Audi sporting a special livery with Jackson having a special helmet to accommodate for it as he enters the chicane. A bit of a lift off there. The Audi has really struggled down the straights on this track, especially with the porpoising issue. You might see it when we approach the first DRS zone, but this DRS zone is actually catching some drivers out, and what I mean is a lot of people seem to actually forget that this is a DRS zone with some curves like Saudi Arabia leading up to it, but it's a bit of a blast, and you can really just see visually maybe just how much the Audi is struggling with drag. It's something that they'll be hopefully able to rectify when we go to the Spanish Grand Prix next time out. Now this is a very interesting section here. This is one of the tightest chicanes of the season, probably rivaling the Spanish Grand Prix's final chicane actually. And here is Audi's real killer for this Grand Prix. Expect them to really struggle down this very long back straight. The porpoising has certainly been affecting the Audis and Mercedes very badly this weekend. So expect them to struggle when passing cars in a straight line, although with Aiden Jackson you probably wouldn't be able to notice. A lovely corner that's taken there by Jackson. Notice the Audi is always good in the corners, and that's a lap. The Miami Grand Prix. It's quite the spectacle, it has to be said.
Our best lap so far is a 1:34.0.
drivers, fans, and even Formula One's governing body, the Miami Grand Prix was always the dream. Here today, that dream becomes a reality. It's been such a build-up leading up to the 5th round of the 2022 Formula One season, a build-up almost like no other. Now it's time for the main event. Commentary from the first ever Miami Grand Prix is, of course, from Aaron Henwood. Thank you, Chaos. A warm welcome to everyone watching today. What a place this is. Miami is quite the sporting state, with the Miami Dolphins of the NFL, the Miami Marlins of baseball, the Orlando Magic and Miami Heat of the NBA, and now this facility for the Miami Grand Prix, driven around the Hard Rock Stadium itself. What a backdrop that is, and even some tennis courts here as well, as you can see. Like I said, Miami is quite the sporting state, and here today we have the first ever Miami Grand Prix. 19 corners and 3.3 miles, and a lot of talk about porpoising, especially down the start-finish straight and the back straight, which is even longer than that. Even with 3 DRS zones, overtaking could be difficult for those mostly affected by the porpoising effect, mainly Mercedes and Audi. But Mercedes were then stunned by Lewis Hamilton taking his 104th pole position. In the first 4 rounds of the season, we've had only 2 winners, Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. But to quote the late great Murray Walker, my idol, anything can happen in Formula One, and it usually does, and that's always particularly the case with a brand new circuit. And when Lewis Hamilton's on form, he goes from his 104th pole position. Can he convert that into his 104th win? The first for him since Saudi Arabia in 2021. It's been quite the wait, but maybe, just maybe, Formula One's greatest ever driver can pull a miracle result out of the bag. You wouldn't bet against it. Well, we've got a bit of a different formation that, because I did forget to actually record the onboard footage from Jackson, so we've got a bit of a difference here. We can get an early look at the tyres. Both Red Bulls going for the hards, as is Charles Leclerc and Sainz, but the Mercedes, both of them, are going for the mediums. Quite an interesting racing prospect, with strategies probably playing the biggest part, because with a new track, you can never count anything out. Here's the grid in full then. We go from the back, and Guan Yu Zhou suffered a penalty, and he will start from 22nd alongside Nicholas Latifi. A bit of a better weekend for Aston Martin, but Vettel's still 20th alongside Albon. Tsunoda and Esteban Ocon, the real outlier down there in 17th, with Lance Stroll getting out of Q1 for the first time this season alongside Mick Schumacher, but unfortunately he suffered a penalty as well. Bottas is 14th alongside Hulkenberg. It's Pierre Gasly alongside Aiden Jackson eliminated Q2 once again. A great 10th place for Formula One's comeback kid Kevin Magnussen alongside Ricciardo. It's Alonso and Norris 8th and 7th. From 6th goes Charles Leclerc on the hard tyres, followed by Perez. George Russell proving Mercedes' pace, being only less than 10th off Hamilton alongside Sainz. 1.010. Max Verstappen was behind pole man Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes. It's been a while since we said that, but it seems that Mercedes are back on song, especially in the one-lap scenario. The question is, what will they do over race distance? With porpoising affecting the Mercedes the worst, it could be a long race for both of those. As for the Audis, keep an eye out for them. They've got a very snazzy looking car this weekend, as you can see on board Aiden Jackson. From his personal sponsor Amstrad, he has come here with a special helmet and livery to commemorate this event. And it's quite the very unusual car. It kind of rivals the BAR from 1999, doesn't it? A very unique paint scheme indeed. So we'll know who the Audis are, that's for sure. As Zhou Guan Yu parks it at the back. And here come the 5 red lights then. There's 3, 4, 5. For the first ever Miami Grand Prix, there's lights out. And away we go. And Lewis Hamilton is away particularly well, I think. Yes, he is. Verstappen's alongside him into turn 1. He's passed him already. And already Max Verstappen. No! Hamilton fights back. We go 4 wide in turn 1. We go 4 wide in turn 1. That's Zhou, Vettel, Latifi and Albon all through turn 1. It looks like Alex Albon got away ahead of all of them. Wow, we saw 4 wide into turn 1. I don't think there's been real other movers aside from that. Magnussen's still 10th, Hulkenberg still 11th, Jackson that's dropped down to 12th, and that's Lance Stroll in 14th place. So it looks like Stroll had a great start, but Jackson's already repassed him back into 13th, so Jackson's the loser at the start, which isn't usual. But there's a first time for everything, and Jackson's already lost out this season. And what will Audi do in terms of team orders? I'm sure they'll let them race. as Zhou Guanyu continues to try and get his way through the field immediately quickly. He should dispose of at least the Williams and Aston Martins, but let's don't forget that Alfa Romeo has been the most disappointing outfit of the season so far, as Jackson throws one down the inside of Pierre Gasly for P12, and he is back almost where he started. The only man in front of him there is Nico Hülkenberg, and I'm assuming that the Audis will be free to race, but the Audis in particular have already been struggling in a straight line. As you can see, for Jackson already falling behind Hülkenberg, and they could be in for a tough one, as could Mercedes. And this is a great position for Lewis Hamilton. If he can break DRS, he will be clear of any overpowered, well, not overpowered, but very powerful, we should say, straight line speed that the Red Bull has, although that wasn't the case in Imola last time out. And Hamilton already has grown to a second. So Max Verstappen has already lost DRS, and we haven't even activated it yet. So, interesting, but don't forget that Hamilton is on the medium tyres. He needs to make this advantage count if he's going to get anywhere near his 104th win today. And here is the replay of the start. Hamilton had to kind of cover Verstappen, and Verstappen was down the inside already into turn 1. Where did Verstappen lose? Oh, there was contact! Contact between the leaders. It was a brush, it was harmless, I think, and they will carry on, but that was almost inevitable, wasn't it? Let's see the start from Verstappen. He definitely got the better of the start. He was pushed out with a bit of a chop there from Hamilton, a la Michael Schumacher. I think Verstappen outbroke himself, quite frankly. It looks like that. Oh, we got a bit squilly out of turn 2 as well. Verstappen not having a great first couple of corners there. Now let's see this. Alex Albon. We had 4 wide at the back into turn 1. Albon was on the soft tyres. And, well, how did they get through here with no contact? I will never know. Wonderful driving by the last 4. That's both Williams and both Aston Martin. Well, one Aston Martin with Vettel. And the guy at the back was Zhou Guanyu. So, oh, Kevin Magnussen, oh my word. And an absolute dive bomb from Kevin Magnussen. He almost made it up to P9 with that. He was unfortunately pushed out by Albon in the Alpine. And Kevin Magnussen, we were saying, the real comeback kid of this season. And he's proving why. And here was Jackson's move on Gasly. Literally locking up into the chicane. And he made that move stick as well. Oh, we've got split strategies at Audi. That's interesting. Nico Hülkenberg's on the soft tyres. So if anything, Jackson will probably have to stay behind and give Hülkenberg some space and let him try and build a gap and get back into the top 10 as it's Lance Stroll in the pits. And I'm going to assume he's had contact, which is rather unfortunate because he had a great start. He must have had contact when we were looking at the replays. He's on the medium tyres, so what would they put him on? It's going to be another set of mediums for Lance Stroll, so he'll probably have to pit again because of the tyre rule. Unless it rains later on, of course. There is some clouds in the air, but no rain is expected for this Grand Prix. So right now, Stroll will have to pit again to take on another set of dry compound tyres. A different compound, of course. You must run 2 different dry compounds in a dry race. And Lance Stroll has only used the mediums, so he will have to stop again. Maybe he's going to try and get as long as he can and then finish the race on the soft tyres, but it's already going to be mitigated because he has a 20-second gap to Nicholas Latifi. What Lance Stroll needs now is a safety car, and what Hamilton doesn't need is a safety car because he's 1.4 ahead of Verstappen. If a safety car comes out, and his advantage will be wiped, but he is on the better, grippier tyres than Max Verstappen. He's maybe in the lead now by 1.5, but Verstappen can go longer in the stint. So Mercedes fans are crossing their fingers, hoping that Hamilton can build up another gap to kind of maybe overcut Verstappen a little bit in the pit stop phase. Here we are on board with Aiden Jackson, still 12th and still struggling in a straight line. Hülkenberg is even able to get away. It's only DRS that's keeping Audi in touch down this long back straight because they are struggling big time with the porpoising issue, as is the Mercedes. But let's be fair here, George Russell is actually running 3rd out of Carlos Sainz. We didn't see it, but George Russell has made his way up to 3rd. So that's very interesting. The Mercedes certainly seem to have had a bounce back in their step after their positive Imola result, and they are kind of keeping going on that tradition, but well, not tradition, but kind of off that positive result, as it were. Hamilton is now grown to a 2-second lead over Verstappen. He's flying. Lewis Hamilton is on to win this race then, it seems. And we don't want to jinx it, but Hamilton is absolutely flying on this medium tyres. And guess what? George Russell has DRS on Verstappen. Verstappen is not having the first stint of this race he would like. I think if he had led into turn 1, there would have been a bit of a difference to this race already, but the complexion has really changed to the fact that Hamilton is absolutely flying. And what are Ferrari going to do? Because Charles Leclerc is behind Carlos Sainz, but Charles Leclerc is the man leading the championship. So, if anything, Ferrari have to swap the cars around to give Leclerc the points, because he's losing points to Verstappen and a big chunk to Hamilton as well, even though he's not particularly in the title fight yet. But if he wins this race, that's going to change dramatically. We are only in the 5th round of a 22 race calendar. It would have been 23, but no Russian Grand Prix this season, of course. And both Audis have DRS, but the drag on that car and the porpoising they have kind of suffered with is really holding those cars back. Even Hulkenberg on the soft tyres is not making any inroads on the McLaren ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, who's running in 10th. Magnussen did get into 9th place. Kevin Magnussen's on a roll at the moment as we get a Tsunoda there with Valtteri Bottas as Alfa Romeo just continue to sink, really. They need points bad. They are really struggling in the early part of this season. And the man who's not struggling, well, Lewis Hamilton, this is a drive we know he is capable of, but the car hasn't been capable of doing it. And, well, they didn't apply any real upgrades to the car. So if this is their pace on a natural kind of day, then when they do receive their upgrades in Spain, maybe we could see Mercedes start challenging a little bit. Maybe this isn't going to be the 2-horse race that the championship was. Certainly on this evidence, Mercedes seem to have been entering their hat back into the ring even without any massive upgrades on the car. Maybe they have something. Maybe it's a small performance gain for the engine, maybe. We all know that Mercedes engine has been all conquering for the last 8 seasons, and the Ferrari C-Spec unit has certainly caught them up. And Red Bull Powertrain have certainly had an interesting debut in that regard, because they are right at the front. Everyone was expecting Red Bull maybe to really fall off because of the switch to powertrains of the new cars, maybe not suiting them the best. They were going to be a midfield outfit to some people, but they've exceeded expectations. But it's Mercedes that really are maybe exceeding expectations. It was the roles reversed. It was really Mercedes that were falling off, but now they've caught right back up. And now this maybe won't be a 2-horse race for the title. And I will be all for that. Well, Lance Stroll is gaining on Nicholas Latifi. I mean, that's rather academic, of course. The Williams is not the greatest car in the world at the moment, although X-Albon is doing, like, as they say, bits in it. Up in P18, I mean, it doesn't look spectacular, but considering Albon has been a year out of the car, that is certainly a great effort from him. So we got Lewis Hamilton leading from 1.8 seconds to Max Verstappen. George Russell right on his tail as Lance Stroll was spun at the back by himself. Lance Stroll's lost it in the final corner. He should be able to get out of there. And he hasn't. He's crashed it. Lance Stroll has crashed it. And I think that may be at least a virtual safety car, because Stroll is stuck. Safety car deployed. That's going to destroy Hamilton's advantage. Oh no. That's something Lewis Hamilton did not need. He did not need a full safety car. That's going to put Max right back into play. And this is all a bit clumsy from Lance Stroll. I mean, why did he spin there? He just lit the rear tyres up. And even though he reversed, and he went to the right, and that's all just really clumsy for Lance Stroll, to be fair. That's not his best moment, that's for sure. And we cut to back to the live action as Kevin Magnussen. Oh no! Kevin Magnussen's slowing down now. Oh no! Kevin Magnussen's had a great start to this race, but unfortunately his engine's given up the ghost. Nico Hulkenberg's in the pits already. That might not work out too badly. It's probably a little bit earlier than Hulkenberg would like, but of course he was on the soft tyres. If he's got a plan, probably go to the hard tyres would be a better bet here. I can't really see what they're putting on. I think it's the medium tyre. I don't know if that's such a great choice so early on. And, well, he's not the only one doing it, because Alex Albon has come in as well. So, who does this favour then? Well, it wipes Hamilton's advantage. This aids, well, this doesn't... I guess this aids, in a way, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, actually. It probably evens out between those two, because Hamilton can now prolong his medium tyres a lot longer than his pit window, and Max Verstappen, well, that even increases his pit window as well, so it's probably going to be even between those two. But Hamilton had almost a 2-second lead over Verstappen before this happened, and now, well, maybe maybe fortunately for him, he won't be. We won't be having the safety car debacle that we had last season. So Hamilton will be leading behind a safety car when we get back under racing here, because there won't be any kind of makeshift procedures. The procedure was made very clearly at the start of the season. All cars on the lead, not on the lead lap, will unlap themselves, and the field will form up before the race restarts. And we don't have a lapping situation on this circuit, at this point I should say. So Hamilton will lead us at the end of this safety car period. And it doesn't look like anyone else is coming to the pits. So this really helps those on the medium and hard tyres. Hulkenberg and Albert are the ones who have had to drop back. But maybe that might help them later in the race. Now they've got the 2-tyre compound rule out of the way. So if they do have a set of extra mediums on top of this set, which they probably don't, then they can probably stay on the mediums for the rest of the race if they so choose. But this has really kind of curtailed their race in a sense, because now they're going to have to come through from the back. But bear in mind, of course, that now they've fulfilled their requirement, all the rest of them have to make a stop. But they've got to do it from the back. So we'll see the pace of the Audi possibly under Nico Hulkenberg. But of course, as we said, the Audi has been struggling in a straight line this year, or at this track, as has Mercedes. But to be fair to Lewis Hamilton, he's driving the wheels off it. He had a 2-second lead before the safety car came out. So we will see now how much of kind of does Mercedes have a competitive edge at this circuit over Red Bull. And I believe we are being told the safety car is coming in this lap. The incident from Lance Stroll has been cleared. There's no unlapping to deal with. And of course, the newest rule is the safety car procedure under a restart. Max Verstappen and Aiden Jackson cannot do their tried and tested moves, pulling up alongside the car in front now. So it's a single file restart. Safety car is in this lap, Aiden. Just to remind you, the new restart procedure rules, everyone is single file until the safety car line. Copy that? So Jackson just be reminded of the new restart procedures, and he must stay in single file behind Daniel Ricciardo until the safety car line. And that is the same for everyone, so no move from Max Verstappen either. And he's following the new procedure, as is Jackson, though pulling up alongside. And here we go then for the restart. Has Hamilton got the legs of Verstappen? And can he build that gap back up? He's going to have to do it quicker, because now the race has been shortened, but it does belong to the life of the medium and hard tyre runners. Green flag right now. Here we go, racing again. And Hamilton is away. And it doesn't look like he's caught the rest snapping. So what? Verstappen has gone with him. Now, of course, DRS will not be enabled until 2 laps after the restart. So this mitigates Verstappen's any advantage he might have thought of getting, and that helps Hamilton out, because he's going to be struggling on the straights in this race. Now, Aiden Jackson's there as well. We've got Daniel Ricciardo going down the inside of the Alpine, and while they're battle, Jackson's just going to hang back a little bit. And that was Ricciardo passing Alonso, and I think Jackson was passing him as well. He did, and Alonso's falling. So I wonder if there's a problem in that Alpine, because he's lost 2 positions in about 2 or 3 corners, Alonso, and that puts Jackson to P9 now. So now he's cleared his teammate. His teammate's out of his way now, and we'll have to see what Jackson can do from here. Mick Schumacher's P12, and he's the only hope for us getting points out, because Paul Kevin Magnussen had an engine failure just as the safety car period got underway. There's Hulkenberg, and I think Latifi got a bit squirrely out of that corner, and he slid, but he's going to keep the position. Now here we go down the straight, and we will see the problems that Jackson has down this straight. He's going to have no DRS, but he is right in the slipstream with Daniel Ricciardo. And he's gone round the outside, and here comes Aiden Jackson for more passing action. Round the outside, did he get him? Yes he did. Jackson is P8. Well, that Audi is certainly good when it comes to following other cars. I think that's probably the best car when it comes to following others, as Hulkenberg passed the TV as well. So both Audis making moves, but Hulkenberg unfortunately has got to do it from the back again. Oh, poor Hulkenberg, he just has no luck at all. It's all bad for him at the moment. Not probably the best strategy outcome. I think the safety car really curtailed his race, but then again, he wasn't really making any inroads on Ricciardo ahead. So, on the soft tyres, Audi just didn't look at all at it there, because on the mediums, Jackson and Hulkenberg have already made some passes. And Hamilton has broken DRS and Verstappen again, so the Mercedes has some pace over the Red Bull. But let's not forget that Verstappen is on the hard tyres. It's probably going to be a no contest once those two switch around in terms of tyre strategy. And look how close this Jackson is to Norris on the McLaren. I think if it wasn't for DRS, the Audis would be practically nowhere. They really have struggled, as Ferrari are battling amongst themselves. They really should be swapping over, because Charles Leclerc is the championship leader, and he's losing out points to Verstappen even at this early stage. And well, there is Verstappen. He's still got George Russell on his tail. And we're coming to the end of the restart period for no DRS, but let me tell you something, I don't think Aiden Jackson even needs DRS. That Audi, it might struggle with porpoising, but it's really not bad in a straight line at all, especially when following other cars. So, the new regulations, technical regulations that were designed as DRS is enabled to follow each other more closely for longer periods of time, it almost looks like Audi have aced it, because they are really good at following other cars. So Audi have aced it, and it really, as Jackson's been reveling in the rewards for it. We did speculate at the start of the season whether Aiden Jackson and Max Verstappen would be the ones to watch in these new vehicles, as it maybe suit their driving styles down to the ground, because they are very similar in terms of their styles, so to speak. And for the moment, they are the men reveling in the rewards. And Mick Schumacher, and he's starting to fall off, so I think his tyres might be gone. Even though we've had a few laps under the safety car, which prolongs the life of the tyres somewhat. And this is very interesting, because Aiden Jackson is right on the back of this DRS train that includes both Ferraris. Because the top three have raced away to a 2-second lead over Carlos Sainz. So Ferrari just don't look at it today, which is rather unusual. It was very unusual to see Charles Leclerc down in 6th, behind both Mercedes. Mercedes have really had a decent weekend, and their pace in Imola, as we said earlier in the pre-show, was no fluke. There's Jackson going down the inside of Lando Norris, no contest, because of the DRS effect that Audi has. Audi has a very, very good car in DRS scenarios as well. Don't forget that Jackson passed Albon, even ahead with Albon opening DRS back in Bahrain. And that was the case there as well with the McLaren, and Jackson still passed him. So this aerodynamic car that Audi has a lot of drag, but at the same time is really good when following other cars. Are they struggling in clean air? Real strange conundrum that Audi has got there, if that's the case. Tsunoda has gone to the soft tyres now. Of course, he didn't pit under the safety car, so it's pretty much like a normal stop for him, but unfortunately with the field all bunched up, that changes strategy somewhat. Verstappen is actually sticking with Hamilton now. And I wonder if Hamilton's tyres are starting to go a bit, because Verstappen has closed right in on him. He's not been able to break DRS. He did momentarily, but it looks like Max is starting to reel him in. And this is what we feared. The overall race pace of the Mercedes cannot compete with the Red Bull at the moment. That's really being more proved in George Russell, really. Well, meanwhile, Aiden Jackson is about to pass Sergio Perez for what probably feels like the 1000th time this season. DRS open, nothing from Perez, nothing to defend. And here he comes, down the inside. It's the Jackson highlight reel again, and he's done it again. And Perez is going to lose out to Norris as well, because he was way offline out the last corner. And it's going to be side by side into turn 1. Perez is trying to hang on. And there's Alonso back into 10th with the unfortunate retirement of Kevin Magnussen, rather. And Perez is still side by side with Lando Norris. And this battle has gone on for a few corners now. Perez is hanging in, but Norris has got definitely enough grunt to keep up with Perez. And there he goes. Down the inside. And of course Perez is on the hard tyres as well. So whatever Red Bull is suffering with at the moment, they'll make back later in the race. And I think that's going to be the end of the Jackson show for a bit. Because I don't think he's going to catch either one of both Ferraris. So, this will be interesting. Let's hope we can stay on board with Verstappen here, because I want to see him down the straight with DRS. See if he passes Hamilton here, because he's a lot closer now. 7/10. He's on the hard tyres though. If Verstappen can pass Hamilton at any point, then it's advantage him at this very moment. But even look at that. Mercedes' straight line speed isn't too shabby, because on a normal day, Verstappen would fly past and Hamilton's pitting. So that's earlier than I thought. I think that's probably on the pit window open lap. So Hamilton has probably semi-destroyed his tyres trying to keep ahead of the Red Bull. So I think it really is advantage for Verstappen now, as Norris and Ricciardo and Alonso come in. So let's just see how far. Oh, and Hamilton is in a race with Vettel here, and he needs to pass him quick sharp, and he did. Hamilton cannot afford to be held up by slower cars than him at this very moment. He needs to pass Bottas, and there's a bit of a 4-second gap to Gasly. That should be more than enough clean air for Hamilton to try and make up the lost time up to Verstappen. But it's just how far Verstappen can go at the moment. To be fair, his teammate George Russell was hanging in there with him. Now Wayne Jackson's at the 5th with Hamilton pitting. So I think this would probably be about right for the medium tyre runners without the safety car. So, unfortunately for Hamilton, the safety car didn't really aid him there. And by all rights, Russell should come in afterwards, and he does. So Mercedes could not make the tyres last, even with the safety car being able to prolong the stint. And Hamilton has already disposed of Valtteri Bottas, his good friend and former teammate, as George Russell comes out of the pits. And did he lose out to Perez there? He did, and he lost out to Gasly as well. No, Gasly's still on the track, my apologies, but he's I don't think Perez hasn't pitted yet. Hamilton comes out ahead of Russell, and that's crucial. So that was perfectly timed with George Russell. I wonder if that was a team play, choreographed move there from Mercedes to get Hamilton, keep him in clean air, to give him enough time to make some laps to pass Verstappen in the pit stop. But Verstappen will be on the better tyres. So Aiden Jackson now up to 4th, but he still has to pit. Hulkenberg is 11th, so he's had a good second stint, but will his mediums make it to the end, do you think? That could be a question. That'd be really unfortunate if the answer is no. It's right on the tail of Zhou Guan Yu then, in the Alfa Romeo, who's done really well. Up in 10th place, but he still has to pit as well. He probably started on the hard tyres because he was at the back anyway. Still no swapping of the cars between Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, my apologies. Verstappen goes on again. So I think this is like 2 or 3 laps longer than Hamilton at the moment. But is he going any faster? I don't know. I don't know if he can. His tyres are probably partially worn. Hamilton's on fresh new tyres, and with a 2-second gap to Pierre Gasly. He's catching at a rate of knots, to be fair. In the AlphaTauri, there he is. Mercedes have really looked on it this weekend. It's good to see. And it's good to see Nico Hulkenberg right in the thick of it as well. Battling with Zhou Guan Yu, who really Hulkenberg should have the advantage over in terms of the tyres. Jackson's certainly going long on this set of mediums, and he's kind of hanging with the leaders as well. He's being dropped by Charles Leclerc by about a few tenths of that, but he's doing really well, Jackson, at the moment. This could be good points for him. Here's at the front, Max Verstappen looking in control and in command at the front. It just depends on when he comes out and when he pits, really. Here's Hulkenberg with DRS, who's right on the tail of Zhou Guanyu, but unfortunately ran out of track. And will Verstappen go on for another lap, maybe? And he's coming in. So, Max is in. He'll be on the medium tyres to end this race, one would have to think. Where is Lewis Hamilton? I think Hamilton's going to come out in front of him. Or would it have been another cleaner stop from Red Bull there? It was a bit of a conservative one, let's say. Where is Hamilton? There he is. I think Hamilton has got it. Lewis Hamilton will assume the lead, no doubt about it, when all of his pit stops filter out. Where is Verstappen? There is Verstappen, and it's going to be very close. Oh my goodness! I think there was contact. I think there was contact as they came out of the pits. Oh my, Lewis Hamilton's done it. But now, Hamilton's on the hard tyres. Can he stay ahead? I'm sure there was contact there again. Hamilton and Verstappen just cannot avoid contact on the racetrack. Their competitive fires are certainly ones that clash when it comes to competitive racing, that's for sure. Contact everywhere. They had it at the first corner on the first lap. Zhou Guanyu doing a great job in P8. Ahead of Hulkenberg, who's now in P9, and Max Albon is P10. But I fear that Hulkenberg may have to pit again, because I don't know if those mediums are going to make it to the end. Ian Jackson's running in second place, but he's 2 seconds on Carlos Sainz, and he'll most likely be pitting this lap. I think he may be coming in this lap, or is he going to wait an extra one? Let's see what he does. And he's going to cross the pit lane, entry line, and be in the pits. He's going to be followed by Perez, which is going to be interesting. Because Aiden Jackson's got to go a long way, and Max Verstappen has already passed Hamilton. The advantage of the medium tyres has already hit home. That did not take long. And that is unfortunate. Meanwhile, Jackson's going to exit ahead of Perez. So Jackson's beating him out of the pits. So Jackson is on for another 6th place finish. Got some more cars in the pits. Albon. And there is Hulkenberg. Back in the pits, and what on earth is going on with the camera there? I'm not sure what was going on. There was a bit of what computer gamers would call lag in that one. I'm not sure what happened there, and that's unfortunate for Hulkenberg, because now that's dropped him out of the points and all the way back down to P17. He's got to do it all again. Nico Hulkenberg, and those around him will be on somewhat fresh tyres as well. So, you've got to feel for Hulkenberg. It's just isn't falling for him at the moment. It'd be very, very harsh to criticise him. Nico Hulkenberg, he's not had the best of luck in that car at the moment. And I say it'll be harsh to criticise him because there'll be probably some criticism of the fact that, well, Audi have cut a car that has pace because Jackson is scoring points. I think that's really down to Jackson's talent more than the car at this point. But having said that, Audi do have a very good and decent race car. To build. This is a building season for Audi, and with all their possible resources coming in from possibly Connor Sport next season, as the rumours continue to increase with another partnership deal with a grid racing company. They already have Raven West in terms of personnel. Maybe this Connor Sport outfit is going to be more to do with the car next year. So we may be seeing a very different looking Audi next year, if that is the case. And what will become of Nico Hulkenberg next season as well? Every kind of avenue says Audi will have already decided to stick with their drivers for next season. But they want to make sure that there's no other commitments that they could be called to. I think Aiden Jackson is, of course, penned in until 2028 at the absolute... No, 2026 at the absolute latest. But of course, he can get the call up to Mercedes at any point, and Audi can still be powered by Mercedes engines in the meantime. We all know that for sure. But with Lewis Hamilton and George Russell still really in a position... Well, they're more in a position to fight for the title now. They're having a great couple of weekends. Toto Wolff is confident that Hamilton will sign an extension for another couple of years at the very least. So Jackson will be at least at Audi until 2024. And maybe it'll be when Hamilton decides to eventually hang up his helmet. But he's showing no signs of doing that. And on today's evidence, I think you have to say that's justified. Hamilton is having a storming couple of races, but unfortunately in terms of race trim they still don't have it with the Red Bulls at the moment, or at least Verstappen's. And there's Alexander Albon locking up in front of Nico Hülkenberg, and I think we're seeing just the troubles that the Audi car generally has. Maybe it's prolonged running behind other cars that Hülkenberg is struggling with. A lot of people will be asking, why does Hülkenberg struggle not as much as Jackson? Nobody really knows, to be honest. Jackson is superb at overtaking race cars. We all know that from Formula 3 and Formula 2 in 2019 and 20, and even 21 to a degree. Most of the passing moves were done on him. He only got to pass Schumacher a couple of times. Max Verstappen comfortably out in front now, stretching his legs and stretching the gap to 3 seconds between himself and Hamilton. This is putting Max right back in the title fight, because Charles Leclerc has finally jumped his teammate into P4, but he's making no inroads on the Mercedes ahead as Hülkenberg passes Albon. Audi is certainly very, very good. I think when their updates come in, they'll start flying as well. Another fastest lap from Aiden Jackson. Now, I don't want to jinx it, but let's just wait and see on that, whether that stays that way. I think there's every expectation that it won't, because the Red Bull, and there was Gasly or Tsunoda and Vettel coming to very slight contact there. And is Vettel coming in for repair to that damage? He might be, you know. I don't really think that. I think that looks relatively harmless. I'm not sure why. If Vettel is pitting for damage, we don't know because we're right back at the front now. Perez with about a second behind Jackson at the moment. I don't think he'll get DRS there. I think Vettel did get a front wing change, so that contact with Tsunoda sent him into the pits. And, oh no, not Nico Hülkenberg again. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Nico Hülkenberg is out of the Miami Grand Prix. Another engine failure for Audi. So strange, because it's all befalling Hülkenberg. I mean, Jackson did have an ERS deploying issue momentarily in Australia, but all the actual failures have fallen to Hülkenberg, and that is not going to help his engine pool for this season. Of course, you have just four, but you have varying numbers of parts in your power units throughout the season. You have different numbers for different things. For example, the ICE, I believe, is 4. The gearbox is 4 this season. That's a change to the rules, because it used to be that you would have to carry your gearbox for 6 races before replacing it. Now you have 4 over the course of the year. Here's Charles Leclerc catching George Russell, but he can't pass in the yellow flag zone. He can pass him now. because they've gone past the stricken car of Hulkenberg, and it's all down to Aiden Jackson yet again to score points for Audi. Oh, it's so unfortunate for Hulkenberg. He had such a good race again, but it's just been curtailed by his car letting him down. And that is the second consecutive engine failure for Hulkenberg. He's going to rack up the grid penalties later in the season. And is this Charles Leclerc passing George Russell down the inside? Look at that straight line speed that the Ferrari has. It's no contest with DRS. And now is George Russell in Charles Leclerc's dust. That was easy. And finally, Charles Leclerc is coming into his own. He's had a quiet race. He spent most of the first stint behind his teammate. But now he is, now he's finally got ahead of one of the Mercedes. Can he catch Hamilton? Verstappen has grown his lead up to almost 5 seconds. And this is what we were talking about. Mercedes still don't have the pace in the race to hang with the Red Bulls and the Ferraris. But if they are that decent over one lap and the upgrades come in Spain, we could be looking at a very different story this season. Don't think there's anybody that would say no to that. It's been great to see Hamilton back on form, scoring his 104th pole of his career so far. His legacy is expanded even in a car that isn't quite there compared to its competitors at the moment, which is very evident in the fact that Carlos Sainz is catching Russell and Charles is catching Hamilton. No DRS for either yet though. There might be DRS for Sainz, there is. He's going to close him on, in on George Russell then. And that's Sergio Perez trying to look at Jackson. And well, for a car that's had massive porpoising issues down the straight, Jackson has done very well to stay in 6th. As we approach the final few laps of this race, we have an intriguing battle for second going on between Leclerc and Hamilton. And a little bit further behind them, George and Carlos Sainz are locked in combat as well. And then they're 5 seconds clear of Jackson rather, in 6th. So for a 7th, followed by Lando Norris and the 2 Alpines, that's your top 10. Still no points for Alfa Romeo, with Bottas 12th and Zhou Guanyu in 14th. And there could have been some points from Haas today, but Magnussen unfortunately dropped out of the race, and Schumacher's only in 14th. This is Carlos Sainz in very close to George Russell. DRS opened for the Ferrari down the outside, and George is going to lock up, and Sainz is going to take that. And well, that was George's own doing, that one. And Sainz is up to P4, and Ferrari all of a sudden have come alive again. Unfortunately, it's way too late to make any impact on the lead of this race, because barring mechanical problems, Max Verstappen looks odds on to take the win here today in the first ever Miami Grand Prix. And we've had moments of carnage in this race. Lance Stroll with a very strange incident that brought out the safety car. If you're just joining us, we had an early safety car as on lap 5. Lance Stroll, to put this as nice as possible, made a meal of it in the final corner. He spun, and as he was trying to recover, he didn't turn left enough and hit the wall, and that brought out the safety car. It didn't really change much in the complexion of this race, but the Alpines are battling now, but there's still a knock on. I think he was passing Fernando Alonso there. So Perez has dropped from the clutches of Jackson now, so that gives Jackson some space. And I guess the real question now is, will Leclerc pass Hamilton? And he needs to, really, because he'll be losing a lot more points to Verstappen. I think if this race finishes as it is right now, Leclerc will still lead the Drivers' Championship. And it will be a significantly reduced margin. He had almost a race win lead over Verstappen at one point. Bounced back from the disappointment of Australia with a win in Imola, but here Ferrari have been slightly worse, where they can't they're kind of equal with Mercedes today. Well, Hamilton has no DRS, Charles has DRS. And not breezing past Hamilton though, strangely. And well, it's just going to be a real run to the end now. And the most interesting battle on the track is the battle for second, which somewhat involves Carlos Sainz and George Russell, but they are a bit behind Hamilton and Sainz for the Leclerc for the moment. The Alpines are having a good scrap for 10th and 9th. Ocon's been repassed by Alonso. Can Pierre Gasly get in on that one and possibly score some more points for AlphaTauri. It's Alfa Romeo that really do need the points bad though. Still no points after 4 rounds, and it looks like going into a 5th without no points for Alfa Romeo. They were bottom of last year's constructors standings after Jackson dragged the Haas to about 28 points. And there's Charles Leclerc, and Hamilton went wide in that corner as well, but Leclerc wasn't able to capitalise on it. But Mercedes struggling with braking in that corner in particular. It could be the pole mistake. Maybe they're struggling to find their braking points, trying to not get their backs and necks hurt by the pole mistake of the car. And now Charles Leclerc is around the outside. Lewis Hamilton with nothing to defend because Charles has DRS. Going into the last corner side by side, and Hamilton's going to be out in front. Hamilton fighting it out in these final laps as Leclerc, or Verstappen rather, continues to expand his lead. Round the outside, going into turn 1, Charles Leclerc. Has he got Hamilton? No, he hasn't. So Hamilton able to hang on. But is he only delaying the inevitable? Charles Leclerc is in the title fight. Hamilton still is mathematically. Although, based on this evidence, they're still not really able to compete with Ferrari and Red Bull in terms of race wins at the moment. Because once Max gets in the zone, he's gone, as has been proven in this race. And DRS again from Leclerc. Where's he going to go this time? He's not even going to try. So maybe Hamilton's being given some ERS power from his team to use down the DRS zones. ERS can be a good counter to DRS, but unlike DRS and ERS both had their drawbacks of whether DRS can only be used in certain scenarios and ERS can only be used for a certain limited time every lap, and of course you have to harvest energy to regain the energy you lose from pressing the overtake button or just normally driving the car. It's the battery pack, by the way. Now on the penultimate lap, and it looks like Hamilton might just get this. A wonderful drive. Lewis Hamilton, he actually led the first part of this race. And that's the first time he's led a stint in this race since his last race win back in Saudi Arabia last year. Of course, he led the majority of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, of course, but we all know what happened there, unfortunately, for Hamilton. And, will forever be debates about that, I'm sure. But I think today, Mercedes and Hamilton fans will look gleefully at this because it does seem like they have turned a corner in the last couple of races and they've got upgrades coming for Spain. And I think the upgrades might actually help with the porpoising issue. And they're going to need that going into Baku, sorry, because Baku is going to be an absolute horror show for Audi and Mercedes if they can't get their porpoising under control. So Audi and Mercedes, who will get their upgrade packages for Spain, will hope that the porpoising is at least less, if not completely mitigated, by the time they get there. But meanwhile, this man, Max Verstappen, is on the final lap, and guess what? I think he's gone faster in Sector 1 than Jackson already. So it looks like once again, Aiden Jackson is going to have his fastest lap overshadowed by Max Verstappen. He has gone fastest in Sector 1. Max Verstappen is flying on this final lap. He doesn't even need DRS for it either. Well, he took the lead from Hamilton after putting on the medium tyres, and has expanded the gap over the sits. But there is no doubt that Mercedes have sent warning signs to the Ferraris and Red Bulls this season that it's not going to be the two-horse race that they thought it was at the start of the Bahrain Grand Prix earlier this season. But whatever the case, Max Verstappen is coming to the final corner. He is the fastest man in Sector 2, and for the third race running, it seems that Max Verstappen is going to steal the fastest lap bonus point from Jackson. A point he so desperately needs anyway. Verstappen, that is. He takes the 25 for the win today. Max Verstappen wins the Miami Grand Prix, and he has predictably taken the fastest lap away from Jackson for the third race running. Jackson has got to be frustrated. Esteban Ocon, a fantastic comeback from 17th on the grid. Jackson fighting porpoising and just general not really having the pace of the front today for Audi, but they still get 6 points. But unfortunately, Nico Hülkenberg drops out with an engine failure. And well, is this the renaissance for Max Verstappen? He is closing in on the title, well, the lead of it anyway. At the beginning of the season, Red Bull were nowhere. They retired with Max Verstappen, and Ferrari looked like running away. Now it's a very different story, not just with this renaissance from Red Bull, but maybe Mercedes as well. Hamilton has had a stunning couple of races. Unfortunately, it's not going to be win 104, but all of a sudden, I think me and most others will start to feel that maybe win 104 isn't so far away after all, because Hamilton led the opening stint of this race. He wasn't really let's say had his race really curtailed by the safety car, although he did pit earlier despite having some tyre saving in that stint. That was really unfortunate. I think the early stop really affected Hamilton's race, to be honest. But even still, Verstappen was on the mediums, and that was always going to be a tough ask. Hülkenberg, Kevin Magnussen and Lance Stroll, in bizarre circumstances, are your retirements today. So, the gap is now just 16 points between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. This title race is all of a sudden on. Hamilton is 30 points back, but Mercedes, as we said, looking forward to their upgrades next time out. And maybe that could be the start. Still no points for Alfa Romeo. The last point scorer is Ken Magnussen for Haas on 2 points. And I think Alex Albon's actually got ahead of the CP. Schumacher's moved up to 18th. I think he did that at some other point. But, well, Ferrari still in the constructors, but it's been a below par race for them, to be honest. Only finishing second, third and fourth, I think, because Sainz did pass Russell. But, wow. Title race back on then. Max Verstappen is closing in, but Mercedes are right there. Spain could really be the turning point of the season, with upgrades coming for both Mercedes and Audi. Anticipation builds as we head to Europe for a nice kind of stint there now after this short break after the start of the European season in Imola. Spain is the telling point of the season. It certainly could be the start of maybe a different story from what we had at the start. We thank you for watching today as always, and we'll see you for the Spanish Grand Prix when Formula 1 returns. Goodbye from Miami. It was a cracker.